Good morning, students. So in continuing the module 1, we will be now today studying again the CPU scheduling algorithms. We have seen till now 3 scheduling algorithms: FCFS, first come first serve scheduling algorithm, which is the inherently non-preemptive in nature. Then we have seen the shortest job first algorithm, which can execute both the preemptive as well as the non-preemptive version. It is also the optimal algorithm. We have also seen the round robin algorithm, in which we allocate the time slice to every process. In the previous example, we have seen that we have allotted time slice of 3 milliseconds to every process. So no matter what is the CPU burst of that particular process, we will simply allot the time slice of 3 milliseconds, and then we will take away the CPU from that process and give it to the next process in the round robin fashion. So it means that the round robin is the algorithm which is inherently preemptive in nature, right? Today we will be seeing the priority scheduling algorithm. What we do here is we assign some integer value to the process, which is a priority. So the smaller the integer number, higher the priority. Priority scheduling algorithm can also execute both the preemptive as well as the non-preemptive scheme. The main problem of this priority scheduling algorithm is that of starvation. It means the lower priority process may never execute, because if the higher priority process continuously comes in the system, then the lower priority process may never get a chance to run. So solution for this starvation problem is aging. So as the time progresses, we increase the priority of each process. So ultimately, the lower priority process will also get the higher priority gradually with time, and ultimately it will get the opportunity to execute or run. Now let us start with the non-preemptive version of the priority scheduling algorithm. So we have got 4 processes: P1, P2, P3, and P4. Arrival time of P1 is 0. P2 arrives after 1 unit time interval. P3 arrives after 2 unit time interval. P4 after 3 unit time interval. CPU bursts are 8, 5, 2, and 4 respectively, and the priority assigned is 3, 2, 1, and 2. So the highest priority is that of P3. Next highest priority is that of P2 and P4 both, because both are having the number 2, and the lowest priority is that of P1, which has got the highest number, that is 3. So the non-preemptive version will obviously, once the CPU is allotted to any process, then we will not take away the CPU from that process until and unless the complete CPU burst is exhausted for that process. So at 0th time interval, we are having only one choice, that is process P1, and its CPU burst time is 8. So from 0 to 8, P1 will be executed. Now after 8 unit time interval, we can check here that P2 has already arrived after 1 unit time interval, P3 arrived after 2 unit time interval, and P4 arrived after 3 unit time interval. So we are now having 3 choices, P2, P3, and P4. So among these 3, the highest priority will be of that of P3, because it has got the lowest number. So next we will allot the CPU to process P3. Its CPU burst time is 2 unit. So from 8 to 10, P3 will be executing. After that, P2 and P4 both are having the same priority, that is 2. So here we will follow the first come, first serve rule. So P2 has arrived first, though we can see here that the CPU burst of P2 is that of 5 unit time interval, and P4 is having 4. So the lower CPU burst is that of P4, but here we are not concerned with the CPU burst. We are only concerned with the priority of that process. So since both are having the same priority, so we will simply follow the first come first serve basis. So P2 will be allotted the CPU next. So from 10 to 15, P2 will be executing because its CPU burst is 5 unit. And after that, in the last, P4 will be executing. Its CPU burst is 4 unit. So from 15 to 19, P4 will be executing. Now let us calculate the waiting time. So P1 has arrived after 0 unit time interval, and we have allotted the CPU after 0 unit time interval. So its waiting time is 0. P2 arrived after 1 unit, and we have allotted the CPU after 10 units. So waiting time will be 10 minus 1, that is 9. P3 arrived after 2 units, and we have allotted the CPU after 8 units. So waiting time will be 8 minus 2, that is 6. and P4 arrived after 3 minutes time interval, and we have allotted the CPU after 15 minutes time interval. So its waiting time is 15 minus 3, that is 12. So now average waiting time will be sum divided by 4, which is coming to be 6.75. Now let us see the preemptive version of the priority scheduling algorithm. So the scenario is same. In preemptive version, what we will be doing, we will be checking after every 1 unit time interval that if whether a new process has arrived or not, and if a new process has arrived, then whether the new process has got the higher priority than the currently running process. And if it has so, then we will simply take the CPU from the current process and allot that CPU to the new process. Okay. So at 0 time interval, we are having only one choice, that is P1. So we allot the CPU to P1. After 1 unit time interval, P2 has arrived and its priority is 2, that is higher than the currently running process, which is P1. So we will take the CPU from P1 and allot it to P2. After 1 unit execution of P2, we are again the P3 process has arrived. So now we see here that the priority of P3 is still higher than the currently running process, which is P2, because it is its number is 2. So we again take the CPU from P2 and allot it to P3. Now after again 1 unit of execution, that is after 3 unit time interval, the new process P4 has also arrived. But we see here that the priority of P4 is 2, whereas the currently running process, that is P3, the priority is 1, that is the higher priority. So we will continue with P3. So the total CPU burst of P3 is 2 unit only. So we will continue from 2 to 4. The P3 is completed. Now, after the completion of P3, we are left with 3 processes, P1, P2, and P4. So among these 3, the highest priority is that of P2 and P4 both. So the process P2 and P4 both are having the same priority. So we will allot the CPU to P2 because we are not concerned here with the CPU burst. Though the P2 is having the CPU burst of 5 and P4 is having the CPU burst of 4, but we are here concerned with only with the priority of that process. So both are having the same priority, and P2 has arrived first, then the P4. So we will allot the CPU to P2. Okay. So after P3 finished, we will allot the CPU to P2. So P2 has already executed 1 unit time interval. So remaining time is 4. So from 4 to 8, P2 will be executing. Now we are left with 2 processes, that is P1 and P4. P4 is having the higher priority. So next we will choose P4. So from 8 to 12, we will be running P4 because its CPU burst is 4 unit time interval. Now we are left with P1, but P1 has already executed 1 unit time interval. So remaining time is 7 units. So from 12 to 19, P1 will be executing. So this is again chart of priority algorithm with preemptive scheme. Now let us calculate the waiting time. So P1 has arrived after 0 unit time interval. So here no waiting is done. But after 1 unit time interval, we have taken the CPU from P1 and then again reallocated the CPU to process P1 after 12 units. So here the waiting time is from 1 to 12. That is 12 minus 1, which is 11 units. Now P2 has arrived after 1 unit time interval, and we have allotted the CPU also after 1 unit time interval. So here the waiting time is 0, 1 minus 1. But after 2 unit time interval, we have taken away the CPU from P2 and then again reallocated the CPU to P2 after 4 unit time interval. So the waiting time will be from 2 to 4. That is 4 minus 2. So the total waiting time is 2. Now P3 has arrived after 2 unit time interval, and we have allocated the CPU after 2 unit time interval. So here the waiting time is 0. But P3 total CPU burst is that of 2 units only, and this is the highest priority number. So we have continued the process P3 till its CPU burst is completed. So no further reallocation was done. So the total waiting time for P3 will be 0 only. Now P4, we have the P4 has arrived after 3 unit time interval, but we have allocated the CPU to P4 after 8 unit time interval. So here the waiting time will be 8 minus 3, that is 5. So average waiting time, if we calculate, then it is 4.5. So this is the preemptive version for priority scheduling algorithm. Now, next scheduling algorithm is multi-level queue scheduling algorithm. So here what we do, we distinguish different processes, or we differentiate different processes into different categories. Like some can be the system process, some can be interactive process, some can be the batch processes. System processes will be those processes which will be having the highest priority and which requires immediate attention. Like we have discussed in our previous lecture about the interrupts. If we don't serve those interrupts on the immediate basis, then they might crash. The system might crash. So system processes interrupts can be categorized into these system processes, which is having the highest priority. Next can be the interactive process. Like if suppose we are typing something in the word, then if we press any key, then we expect that that character or that letter should appear on the screen. So these kind of processes are interactive process, but it will be having the lower priority than the system processes. Then next kind of processes can be the batch processes. Batch processes can be like printing. We want to print 1,000 pages of one file, so it can go on the go in the background, and therefore it will be having the lower priority than the interactive process. So here the higher level queues will be having the absolute priority over the lower level queues. Now, what do we mean by the absolute priority over the lower level queues? It simply means that if the CPU is executing the system processes, then it will switch to the interactive process queue only when the system process queue is empty. Okay, and suppose it is executing the interactive process and some process comes into the system process, then what it will do? It will simply suspend whatever activity it is doing in the interactive process queue. It will immediately switch to the system process queue. It will serve there, and when the system process queue becomes empty, then it will switch to the interactive process queue. And when both these two process queues, system and interactive process queues, are empty, then it will switch to the batch process queue. This is what we mean by absolute priority over the lower level queues. So the lowest queue is having the lowest priority, and the highest queue is having the highest priority. But the main problem which we face in this algorithm is that how do we differentiate different processes? Because let us say, suppose I have made one program, and I want to interact with the hard disk. Suppose I want to read certain file from the hard disk. So I cannot directly interact with the hard disk. I have to write some system call for that. And that system call will be generating the software interrupt. So again, that interrupt is a highest priority process. That is the system process. So it means that some commands in my program is having the commands which are falling into the category of system processes. Okay, so should I place my program into the system process queue? But let us say that after interacting with the hard disk, I will be taking certain input from the user. So now that becomes the interactive process. So shall I place my program into the interactive process queue? But suppose I have read certain thing from the hard disk, I have taken certain input from the user, and after that I have done some calculations or done some processing, and then I want to print that data into the printer. Now that becomes the batch process. So in which category should I place my program? This is the biggest problem which we face in this multi-level queue scheduling algorithm. So the solution for this is multi-level feedback queue scheduling algorithm. So here what we do, we have again decided the three queues, but the highest, and here also the same property holds, that is the highest level queue will be having the absolute priority over the lower level queues. It means the CPU will be switching to the lower level queue only if the higher level queue is completely empty. Okay, so what we have done, all the processes initially will be sent to the highest level queue. But here we have decided the quantum or time slice or time quantum equal to, let us say, 8 milliseconds. So if that process completes within this 8 milliseconds, then it will simply exit from this queue. But if it does not complete within 8 milliseconds, then it will be sent to the next lower level queue. Again, it will be given the time of 16 milliseconds more. That is, now the total time becomes 24 milliseconds. here also, if the process completes, then it can exit from this queue. And still, if the process does not complete after these 24 milliseconds, then it will be sent to the lowest level queue, which will be then executed in the first come first serve basis, and a first come first serve order. So why this time quantum we are doing? For the simple reason, the system processes or the interactive processes will be having the lower time requirement. The system processes or the interrupts will be requiring less than or equal to 8 milliseconds. So if that is an interrupt or a highest priority process, then it will simply execute here itself and it will exit. If it is an interactive process, then it might take a little bit more time. So we are serving that interactive kind of process in the second level queue. But if it is not an interactive, if it is not a system process, then it will be sent to the lowest level queue. So automatically the bifurcation will be done with this kind of scheme. So this algorithm will be having all the benefits of the multi-level queue, as well as to distinguish the different processes into different categories. This will be done automatic with the help of this time quantum. So that is all for today's lecture. Thank you.